Welcome to the show, guys. We're gonna start off the show like we do every other one with a little over-the-air frequency tuning. So, this is episode number 28, Christ. This will be a nice, fun topic. It's going to be what I've come to learn on what Christ is and how it applies to ancient teachings and all that fun stuff. Welcome to the show. So, Christ. Sure, a lot of people go directly to biblical teachings when they think of Christ. People correlate it to Jesus. Jesus Christ means the anointed. Christ from Christelios, anointed. Hebrew would be Messiah. Christ would be a title that you would obtain, that someone would give to you, because we know a lot of reference as to when they called Jesus the Christ or Jesus Christ. People directly correlate to the New Testament teachings of Jesus Christ, and it's a fully loaded word, and there's a lot of mucked up teachings and correlations that go along with some of today's information on the man who was called Jesus Christ, the meaning of Christ, the message that's supposed to be portrayed through the teaching from the man that they may have called Jesus Christ. But the beautiful thing about parables and ancient teaching and knowledge and information, well, one, we all have it inside of us. That's the best. That's the main key. Anything I speak about is for you to open your mind and to do your own questioning, to ask for yourself what this means, or if it's true. Does it resonate with me inside? Because all the information is inside. Therefore, all information should be discerned with that same feeling and frequency inside on whether it resonates with you as truth. This is where you decide what's true to you and what's not. Anything I say, the last thing I want for someone to do is to repeat the same old pattern of just listening to what someone has told them. The whole goal is to make you aware of your thoughts and aware of the ability to find truths within yourself, and the awareness of what you think and what you do. And so, don't do the same old thing and just listen to what someone told you. In the age of information, to be uninformed is a choice, mainly because of where all the information resides inside yourself. So, don't repeat the same patterns of just listen to what someone told you, or reading someone else's story of what things are. I can write stories about all my experiences and my idea of what is, and if you read it, you may resonate with it, but that's my experience with the one source. Just like the Bible is a contemplation of stories of men and their experience with source. And if you're English, then that translation has been translated from like Hebrew to Greek to Latin to English. The whole story has been translated many times, and all the books that's in the Bible are not all the contemplation of the stories that go along with it, which come from the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is old writings from ancient men and their experiences with Source, or what they would call God or Creator, Yahweh. There's so many things that go with that that's not even in the contemplation of the Bible and all those stories. And so it's hard to get a real grasp on the full circle picture with a closed mind and a small narrative, and looking at it with the dual eyes. So you have to just think a little bit about the history of some of the books, of where the information comes from. In essence, our English Holy Bible, the King James Version, which is a version of translations, it It was translation. It was translated to reform Catholicism, and it spawned what we call modern Christianity. It was created by the Roman Catholic Church. These would be the very ones who, in the story, would have crucified the man they call Jesus the Christ, or the one that's portrayed in the Bible. The very ones who had these books translated would have been the ones who would have been responsible for murdering the man. So in the Bible, and a lot of things, you have to look at the words and the root of the words to find the meaning of words, because the tricky part about English is a lot of things have a way different meaning in translation to their root word. And so a word just like God, for example, in Greek means the four-letter word, tetragrammaton, which would be the word. It's also translated in Hebrew from YHEW, the four letters, the Greek tetragrammaton, meaning the four letters. It's a way cooler word than God, if you ask me. But it's a very loaded word, just like Christ is. And these definitions and ideas have been mucked up through history to manipulate man and control him the most. So, you know, just the history of our English Holy Bible that was translated by the Catholic Church. We can look at the word Catholic, which means universal. The air is Catholic. Water is Catholic. So this universal idea of translation comes up with our contemplation that we call the English Holy Bible. The very first one being the King James, and there's a New International Version and many references where the English has been simplified and certain things have been summarized of these men's stories. You know, because everybody talks about the Word of God cannot be altered. Well, these are men's stories with their encounters with what we would call Source, or the divinity within God, if you choose Tetragrammatron. And so words are spells, and there's so many meanings that come from ancient times to modern times, and it can really get people's ideas twisted. So, you know, that history of the translation to English, that universal translation was meant to unite many religions of the time, because a one world establishment stronghold, which was the Romans, existed, and the Roman Catholic Church knows that people fight and die in what they believe in religiously, and so to keep people docile, obviously you would like to unite them under one religion, one political power to completely control, to make a slave, basically, which is, in essence, what exists today in so many ways by the same individuals. And so understanding the control of controlling a religious philosophy and a religious idea, the religious core values in a man, and to control him politically is to control his mind, body, and his spirit. You know, if we were to go to the Bibles and parables, then, you know, that would be like taking the mark. To be servitude to a system such as that would be to carry the mark. And so that's the great thing about the translations and all of the ancient teachings is parables. Parables are awesome. Doesn't matter unless you completely change the whole word setting of a parable, more than likely it's still able to be caught in the mix. And so a book of parables of a parable is what we have of Christ. And so now that you understand that the whole English translation was controlled and summarized, then we can see where a lot of correlations and misconstrued connections and ideas are kind of in plain sight of what they are and what they correlate to in the different translations. We'll just cover a few things, such as the heavens themselves, the gods and goddesses, all the way from Egyptian to Greek to Romans to Jesus to a man in a cave to modern day man and modern religions comes the same thing. The heavens, the stars above us, the sun and the moon. Understanding the heavens, why you understand everything. So we go back to Egyptian times and we have Adam Ra, or Ra, and Set, I believe is sun and moon. So Adam Ra is where you get Amen from. It's also where you get Ray, as in sun ray. So that's one of the oldest direct correlations. There's older, you know, you've got Stonehenge and so many things across the entire world that's based around the sun and the motion of the stars in the solar system. And so Christ, the Bible, there is a lot of sun ideas tied into a lot of other stories. I was raised Christian in a Baptist church. I've been to Methodist church. I've been baptized twice, so I guess I'm good to go. I'm just joking. I've been baptized in a Methodist church, and I've been baptized in a Baptist church, and I've seen the differences in how things are presented. Methodists are more formal, like a Catholic church, lighting candles, and everybody's dressed nice and quiet, and, you know, big fancy guy in front of a podium, short and sweet ceremonial type things, you know. Small Baptist churches, you know, hooting and hollering, and hot hellfire, and paradise heaven and all that scary shit. But you can find a certain spirit. You can find the spirit in certain ways with small groups leaning towards a certain frequency. And so a lot of the stories that you get from the Bible and some of the stories of a person that we would call Jesus Christ or Emmanuel, or whichever version of a person that they're portraying in these contemplation of stories that they call Jesus the Christ, you would see the main message of being love. And so a lot of people are allowed to attune to this frequency by loving the idea of a man that loves that much, that it raises them to a vibration because of that love frequency. Even with the misconstrued ideas of getting there and all that jazz, it still can be found and obtained in many ways. We have so many flavors of religions through different parts of the world. My philosophy is on religion is it's geographically based, especially, you know, not in so far of the past, you know, just 100 years ago. You know, if you were in the Middle East, you're gonna fall under Islam or Judaism. In China, you're gonna be maybe practice Tao or Buddhism or atheism. In India, you find Hindus, and this is where the majority of the sects of the sections of religions you'll find used to be really correlated to areas of where different nationalities were. And so it's easy to make that correlation to the different ideas, and it changing from different culture to culture. But when you understand a little bit about all the religions and the parables, and you understand it's a full circle of speaking the same thing, and that's like how you can be what we will call Christ. You know, you can be the living light and the living Word made flesh. So many parables is wrapped into the one that we call Jesus Christ, but it's kind of sad in a way to me to understand the meaning and the correlation, and then to see how it plays out in modern society and modern ideology of Christianity, and the actual message of who we would call Jesus Christ was trying to portray. It's really plain, and even in the English translation it's been changed so much once you open your eye. Let thine eye be single. And so this sun worship is all throughout history, and obviously the universal religion would not fall short of this. So in Greek you have the constellations. They had their names, like their gods, Apollo and Zeus and all this. This was the constellations in the sky. And then you have the Roman idea of the stars, which is our modern constellations that we call Pisces and Aries and all these things. These were all created by the Romans because everyone worshipped the sun and the light. Dark was scary. When you've just got a pitchfork, or when you've just got a stick with some cloth on it for light. It kind of makes the dark really scary when you can't see. So you have this age-old idea of just being a primitive man in a cave where you would obviously like the light and you wouldn't be scared of the dark. But a key to survival with knowing how to grow your own food so that you can survive, you have to know how the stars work. You have to track the stars to know when the seasons change, to know when to plant your food and when it's time to harvest, because this is how you survive, by having a little knowledge of the heavens without modern technology, compasses, GPS, clocks, all that good stuff. The Son of God, is a clock. Tells the time, tells the 24-hour cycle. Sundial is, you can take a stick and draw you some lines in the sand and stick the stick straight in there, and you've got a sundial. You have a watch by the sun. So the sun is very important. The Son of God lights this earth. Between sun and water, there is no life on earth without the sun. There is no life in our entire galaxy. So you could see how the Son of God is the sun, and it is very important to our physical incarnations in this electromagnetic universe that we call Earth. So in translation, they called it the lazy O, or the lazy, the lazy O, because if you were to be scribing and writing a lot, especially cursive, it is a lot quicker to write a circle for sun, S-O-N, than it is to write a U, S-U-N. So most translations in the Bible that is S-U-N, as in the sun, is literally can be completely transferred to S-O-N, because there's a lot of different sun worships that's compiled in the Universal Bible, the King James Version, the first English translation, that is sun worship in different forms. The Son of God dies on the cross every year and rises again. The sun stops on the horizon on December 22nd every year and rises again on the 25th, which represents the spring is coming. It's time to plant food, all that good stuff, because winter sucks. It's hard to survive the winter if you can't grow food. So the actual Son of God that comes in the eastern sky on the clouds every morning dies on the cross every year on December and rises again. There's a constellation of where the sun stops on the horizon that makes a cross, a constellation of stars. This also correlates to the birth, because there's 3 wise men that follows the star, the brightest star in the sky, which I believe is Osiris, the star of Bethlehem, the star in the east. The 3 wise men is Orion's belt, which is the brightest star and the closest constellation to that star in December. And obviously the solstice was a big deal to everybody in ancient history. So this is why you have so many correlations to a virgin birth and death on the cross and resurrection and 3 days dying again, born again. All of these come from that same date every year, all the way from Egyptian, pagan, pre-Egyptian. Obviously the Universal Bible that we call the Holy Bible does not fall anywhere short of obviously obtaining these same characteristics. So you have the birth of what we would call Jesus Christ. You have the death on the cross. And you have the rising again in 3 days. So you have Christmas, Easter, all in one nice little area of the year. Even Passover relates to when the sun passes over the equator. The Jewish people actually used to be really involved around the moon, and their calendar is still based around the lunar cycle. Sin, S-I-N, is actually a moon god, and synagogue in Israel will be spelled S-I-N, and not how we spell it with S-Y-N. And so there's so many things in the Bible that correlates to the actual heavens, the stars, just like all the teachings in history. There's a lot about the stars because obviously they're important with growing your food, and growing food is how you feed yourself like a smart person. So obviously, as we were growing up, it was a good idea to know how the sun evolved around the earth and when the seasons came and left, so that you could know when to plant yourself some food and when to save food so you could survive. So this would be good knowledge to pass on to everyone at the time, just like growing food, which most people don't know how to do in today's society. And they also don't know that they are being controlled by their belief systems, and those very belief systems is the ripple effect in the quantum holograph, or the quantum plasma of this plane that we call Earth. We are all responsible for everything that goes on. The things that go on outside of us still go on because they go on inside of us. So understanding a little bit of history is very helpful for everyone. It really always made me uneasy when people told me they hated history. I really enjoyed history. I can understand not enjoying a subject, but the lack of caring where you come from is a product of programming and indoctrination. You absolutely have to know where you come from. You have to know history. If you don't know history, then it's doomed to repeat itself. So this is why we live in the time that we do now. We're all here now doing exactly what we're doing to stop the repetition of history, you know, all of that good stuff from the previous episodes. Remembering who we are, remembering that we're all one, and that we're all connected, and changing ourselves and making that ripple throughout life by knowing who we are and making those decisions in our own life to actually change the world outside of us. That's what we chose to come to do, and that's, if you're listening to me, then that's more than likely what you also come here to do. Welcome. So history. Sadly enough, the winners of the wars are the ones who write the history books. So history is mostly lies. Mostly everything you've ever been told or taught religiously or through public school systems. It's mostly lies, sadly. Kind of just gotta shake it off. It's all good. All the information's inside of you. It's alright. If you want it, you can find it. You can seek. You have to stand humble in the knowing that you know nothing, and everything that you told was a lie. But it's okay, because anything you want to know, you can find out inside of yourself. So that's why a wise man knows nothing, but secretly he knows that he can find out anything that he wish. Any information he seeks, he shall find. There's a lot of episodes that correlates to why that, and we'll get into that a little further. So, history. So we've got the translation of the Bible being a lot of sun worship, and we covered Christmas and the man Jesus. That story set goes way before Jesus, obviously, because solstice was very important to the ancients for obvious reasons, for feeding yourself. And just energetic energy, you know, new cycles. Everybody likes that new birth energy. We're affected by the moon cycle, obviously, because we're made out of mostly water. The moon affects the earth so much in the water, so obviously it has effect on you. The heavens affect everything. That's why the world is changing so much right now. This cycle, this predicted cycle of 2012, comes from the knowledge of the heavens and how the stars rotate. So we're going through a part of space and time where there's more light protons and stuff being shot at us. Well, quantum science proves that in every single proton is every bit of information in the entire world, and you're made out of trillions of them. So you have all the information in you a trillion times or more. So obviously all the information is inside of you. Quantumly, this is proven through science these days. Welcome to 2019, where the truth cannot be hidden. If it's in every single proton of the universe, then how can you hide that? If you seek it, you shall find it. So Christ would have been obtained, named by the ones they called Jesus, Emmanuel. There were so many names. I was raised Christian, real young, around 12, 13, something like that. I realized there was too much shit that didn't correlate inside of me with truth, things that didn't make sense. And so I fleshed out the indoctrination and basically found the truth inside of myself very quickly. And so that's why I have a lot of knowledge of the Bible. It's just funny that I've become more interested in the Bible here the last year or two. Because all the things that I see and understand the parable instead of the teaching method that is used with the Bible. it is used exactly how it was designed to use as the control mechanism, but I could use the very same Bible and correlate all the things that I already talk about on the show here, about oneness and all that jazz. It's in the same book. It's all throughout history. It's in all the symbolism. I mean, it's universally in plain sight. I can do 100 episodes of things that's in plain sight. This is the same thing. So Christ, the title of Christ, the title of Jesus Christ is no different. It's about consciousness. That's why a lot of people in the New Age talk about Christ consciousness. To be anointed by what? To be anointed by the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. We all come from the one source. We could call it spirit, soul, so many layers. We all are the same essence, and we all connected and experiencing this duality, fractality, reality, whatever you want to call it. We call it reality, the physical plane where things seem dense, but they're really not. So that's why people are like, oh, it's an illusion, hologram. There's whatever you want to call it. We call it life. We call it reality. The journey of remembering who we are. And so we can take this Christ, this idea of Christ, and this whole parable of books, and this specific story tied around this word Christ. So we'll call Christ as consciousness. We'll simplify that big scary word of consciousness, which is just like saying enlightenment. It is an awareness. Christ is awareness. When you're aware of what you are, you will be anointed with the Spirit. Because being aware of what you are is, once you're aware of what you are, which what you are is a son of God or a daughter of God. You are a duplication of the source. We all come from the very same essence, the very beginning, in the same Big Bang. Everything come to an existence, and we are experiencing all of those things in that existence. So being aware of what's inside of you, you will find that it is a frequency, it's a vibration. I like to call it like the one source frequency. The man Jesus in the Bible says my Father, or Creator, universal consciousness. There's so many terms. The unnameable one, God, Yahweh. So many names to try to explain something that cannot be explained. So not only do you have a contemplation of books of trying to explain something that can't be explained, you have like horrible translation and manipulation thrown in there in the same time, because these are just merely men's stories trying to explain their experience with that very thing. The Father, or the New Testament, it was people's experience with the man they called Jesus Christ. It's just a bunch of stories of an experience. We can talk about it all day long. But just like thinking for yourself, you have to find that experience for yourself. There's nothing outside of you that's going to give you that experience. There's nothing outside of you that's going to give you that knowledge, because it's all in you. Yeah, you know, it's kind of like repeating the same thing. And so anybody that connects with their inner light, their inner Christ, their inner enlightenment, the source, the creator, the Father, anybody that connects to this has that information, has that ability to a lot of stories that are portrayed to this awareness, this consciousness, this enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. It's no different than God. There's so many things explaining the same thing over and over and over again, but it's not outside of you. It doesn't come from a yogi, it doesn't come from a 5D ascended master, it doesn't come from worshiping Jesus Christ either. Even the red letters of a man that they call Jesus Christ said that he and the Father was one, and that his path was narrow, that he was the way. The reason why he was the way is because the only way to understand what he could call the Father in a language 2,000 some years ago, you know, I call it the one source frequency, the source. The best word to try to explain this is, you know, my Father, my heavenly Father, my Father from outside of my worldly Father. You know, this is a vessel. This is a car. So your Father, this portrayal of information is the best word that you could come up with. This is the source of all things that you are, and it isn't, you are an expression of this frequency, this vibration. If you correlate that to these stories, then you start to see a totally different picture. You start to get to that singular I, which correlates to other religious doctrines. You know, Christ is become conscious of who you are, becoming aware of what you are and the history of where you come from. But that information comes from inside of you once you seek it. This is why the one that they call Jesus Christ, he made fun of the ones in the temples who wore fancy clothes and prayed out loud to God. They were a joke. They were merely sheep. They were merely wolves in sheep clothing. Welcome to modern day Christianity. If this man, Jesus the Christ, that has all these parables and red letter writings in this book, the message is plain, and it's really plain. It's right in plain sight. So if the ones at the temples were dressing fancy and praying out loud and exchanging money in the church, then I believe there would be a lot of different things going on in Christianity than what we have today, if that message was actually made it through the congregations to an understanding that is true. Wouldn't have $1 million churches. A church would meet in a tent, and if they raised money, it would go to community to help people. You know, the best I've seen so far is a church that's opened their doors up to homeless people at night. Well, in essence, you shouldn't have a church large enough to fit anybody in it, because that's not what fellowship is about. That was not the message of the man Jesus. What he spoke about, he had to hide to talk about it, because obviously he wasn't teaching the same things they were teaching in the temples. He wasn't Roman Catholic, and so they had to hide to speak truth, because it would cost you your life. That's why America was founded, for religious freedom. You would cost you your life for teaching anything different from the religious law. So you see how the unawareness of just a little bit of history can really put you in a situation to be highly manipulated in so many ways, where a little history knowledge really kind of changes the spectrum of things. And so I've done a lot of thinking and reading certain passages and things like that. I already know there's a lot of sun worship in there, and the death and resurrection and all of that. I'm still on the fence on whether there was a man, Jesus the Christ. But that's my own personal, seeking. Stories great, don't get me wrong. A lot of great information from parables from someone or multiple people. But there's obviously encounters that in the New Testaments with a man who spoke the same truths, and then those truths are the same. You are the Son of God and the daughters of God, or the source of all creation. And you're here to remember that, and you would have remembered way quicker had someone taught you correctly, or gave you a little bit of correct information when you were younger, and we'd have obviously a completely different world right now. But that's the new age. That's what's coming. The second coming of Christ. The coming of consciousness, awareness. What's there to be aware of? The awareness is that you are quantumly, esoterically, spiritually connected to all things. You are made in the image thereof. So this awareness, when applied to your life and practice, well, it'll change everything. How can you hate anyone if they are you, or we'll just say that they're God, they're the source. Every time you talk and interact with anyone or anything, you are speaking as the Creator to the Creator. Or you can put yourself in a dual perception as you just being you, but you are talking and expression yourself to the source with every interaction you have with anybody, always. So how do you speak to God? How do you speak to your neighbor? How do you speak to your wife, your girlfriend, your son, your daughter, the stranger, the homeless man? How do you speak to the source? How do you speak to yourself? It's the same thing. So this awareness, this second coming, all these powers and information, this inside of you comes from the awareness of you and who you are, and to seek that information inside of you, and to seek that inner knowing and that inner frequency of love and compassion, which is the source of all creation, that is in man. Man has this habit of doing the worst things to his fellow man that he would do to anything, but it's also where man does his greatest things to show what's inside of him, the true essence of himself, and not his shadow self or his small self, his higher self, his big self, the source, the Father, the Creator, when he is acting in his big man pants, is as who he is, or she is. You know, this is the ones. This is how you run into burdened buildings without no thought to yourself, because that is the ultimate expression of service to others, to be able to service your life, exchange the whole thing for someone else's. That is that true essence that's inside of everyone, and you can see it a lot of times if you look close enough. So man has a lot of love inside of him. All men and women across the world. They're just unaware of it, but you can connect to that awareness of who you are, and you can express it through your life. And that's the whole story that's in this book, about a man they call Jesus Christ. And what he was trying to teach is your magical power as man, and that is who you are. That expression of love, a frequency that we call the source, where love obviously falls short. I mean, you call people who act in that frequency heroes and things like that. Or you call them things like Jesus Christ, or anointed, or Messiah, to be able to express that love in a message to make people aware of who they are. That is magnificent, because true freedom and salvation comes from the understanding of who and what you are. Why? You can't be a slave if you know who and what you are. You can't be controlled by religious indoctrination. You can't be controlled by politics. You can't be controlled by a damn thing whenever you're aware of who and what you are, and you walk in that and act in that essence, to be Christed, to attain the Christ within. Even the man that they copied his words as red letters in the book said, "You will be greater gods than him." You know, revelation means to be revealed. So the second coming of Christ is you now. It's the coming of awareness of who you are. So you have to know thyself. And then when you become aware of who you are and you have any doubts of what the message was, it's everywhere in plain sight. In any religion, philosophy, you can find the parables of the same thing. You can find it in symbols. If you're trying to find something outside of yourself to reassure what something inside of you you've already found, or you can find it all across the motherfucking board. It's there. Because you are it. You are the Christ. You are in the second coming of Christ. The message from the man they call Jesus the Christ is that what he was, you are. His path, the inward journey, the only way to find the Father, to bring heaven to earth, the kingdom, is to become aware of that which is salvation. You can't find that in a church. You can't find that anywhere but inside of yourself. And that, my friend, cannot be controlled by anything outside of yourself. With that kind of understanding of the knowledge that's inside of you, no man can tell you anything whatsoever and play you for a fool when it comes to information that's inside of you. Once you understand that death is not death, then what is there to fear? Fear is the only thing that has kept the Christ within hidden. These were all the parables of demons and Satan, all the parables of God and Christ and angels, this spectrum, this yin, this yang, this white, this black, this good, this evil. It is you. You are that whole thing. You are all of that wrapped up in this tiny little vessel that you call your human body, that you have a name, and all these ideas and attachments to it. It seems as if you were a son of or daughter of God, sent to the world to invest in the world, to be rejected by it, to be killed. Because the inward journey, in essence, is a sacrifice of who you thought you were. All that bullshit that you thought you were. It has to go, like a death. All those things of the world that you thought was are gone. It's like a rebirth. Does the parable sound familiar? So was Jesus Christ real? Really doesn't matter. There's a great story there. Even the crucifixion itself, the icky one that they portray, not the sun and the stars. I like that one way better. But the essence of a man who is being beaten to death for telling you exactly what I just told you, telling indoctrinated, controlled people that very message is what Jesus Christ apparently had done, per se the Bible, minus him being born from heaven and virgin and all that other stuff. This man or God, one and the same, was ridiculed by a foreign government, and his very people, his very friend Judas, betrayed him for money, and he was beaten and mocked. And the story says that he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." That's profound application of information of what that essence of source is. A love that is beyond what the human mind most of the time can comprehend. That same essence of a man that would run to a burning building to save a family or a baby is that same essence of a man that could be beaten for bearing the fruit from his father, the source, to be beaten to death, and for that very message, and to still express that light of unconditional love, to ask for forgiveness for the very ones who were beating him to death at the same time. Well, that is profound parable or real story, irrelevant either way on the real story or not, because it's a magnificent portrayal once understood correctly of what to be Christ means, what it means to encompass that frequency that's inside of you, to understand what we would call unconditional love truthfully. That is all creation. You would understand this is a journey experience. We are the universe experience in itself. You are the source experiencing this reality. This is why I and the Father are one. This is why I am the living light and the living Word made flesh. I come from the one light being from the beginning. The living Word. The reason why I'm the living Word, well, if every bit of the whole known universe information is every proton and there's like trillions in my body, then obviously I am the living Word. Jesus Christ, a person who was trying to explain quantum physics like 2,000 plus years ago. Pretty fucking awesome job, if you understand what's being said. You are the living light and the living Word made flesh. You are all the information of the whole known universe wrapped into a vessel of energy that you call the human body. And a proton is light. You are a light that contains information of the whole known universe. We are all the living light and the living Word made flesh. So obviously I am the living light and the living Word made flesh. And this man in this book that they call Jesus Christ, he was the living light and the living Word made flesh. Well, guess what? I am the path because I went the inward journey. That is the same thing. The path is narrow. It's only one direction and it's inside. To be Christed, to be anointed, to be in that spirit is to encompass that frequency, that one where you would burst into that burning building to save someone's life, that same frequency that you would die and still forgive the ones in the very action of beating you to death. That is magnificent frequency, wouldn't you think? Well, that's not judgmental. That's not a God in this book that they call the Bible as portrayed. It's not a bearded man in the sky with a 2x4 ready to whack the shit out of every time you do something wrong. Well, that's completely different. So when you encompass that frequency that you are, that is all things in and around you, that source, and you look at this plane that we call Earth, this dense realm of energy, and you see that all people and all things is that source, and you understand that each person is that living light and that living Word. And you can hold that love, that unconditional love for that person no matter what they do. I mean, this is the murderer, this is the rapist, this is the worst person that you can think of in your entire life. And if you can understand that they are still that light and that Word, and they're just a baby, like a newborn baby taking a shit on themselves in their diaper and pitching a fit and all that good stuff that comes with babies who are unaware of things. Well, when you act out of that unawareness to the most extreme degree, you know, you're gonna shit on yourself, and you know, you might piss and shit on the ones around you if you're not wearing a diaper. And that applies to life. And so to be aware, to be Christ, to have that understanding is to walk in that understanding and apply it to life. We have any questions or comments for the night. Thanks everyone for joining. Well, thanks everyone for joining the show tonight. This is episode 28. Christ on Higher Frequencies. You can find us on the website at higherfrequencies5d.com. You can find us on Facebook or YouTube, all the episodes, or you can listen to the audio on Google Play. You can listen on Google Play and iTunes. I said that, but only the last 10 episodes. But you can catch, you can download all the audio off the website directly, and you can see all the previous episodes on the social media platform of YouTube and Facebook. I'm going to be doing a live presentation for any people that's local at Heartlight Spiritual Center on April 6th called Think Frequencies, Speak Life is the name of the presentation. It'll be about 2 hours long. Just a love donation in Charlotte, North Carolina on April 6th at 10 a.m. to 12. For all you guys that would like to check that out, come join us. Everyone have a good one. Peace and love. Namaste.